Another year brings another flurry of complaints about ratings and the state of linear TV. While the same old doom and gloom can now celebrate a decade of trips around the internet, let's look into the actual numbers and see how television networks really did in 2020. And more interestingly, to again answer a curious question: what is the lowest rated channel on television? Love them or hate them, ratings are one of the few quantitative guiding metrics armchair analysts have to gauge the performance of a television channel and the success of their programming strategy. I explained the process in a little more detail last year when I looked at the ratings averages from 2019, but the relationship between networks and advertisers is mutually beneficial. Networks make shows to garner audiences who will watch commercials that advertisers will pay good money to networks for so they can reach the audiences watching the shows that the network now has money to make more of. Repeat ad infinitum dozens of times a day, every day of the week, every week of the year, across nearly 150 television channels and networks in the United States alone. Back in December 2020, as they have for the past few years now, Nielsen released their definitive list of primetime ratings averages for the year based on total viewers. It serves as effectively the barometer for the states and success of each television network in an empirical, comparable way. The networks themselves might have glowing press releases about how well they do in various demographics, but the total viewers numbers bring everyone down to brass tacks. Before we get to who's last and certainly least, let's see what the numbers look like for a variety of entertainment channels in 2020. News networks and sports channels have had good and awful years respectively, but I am placing that discussion out of my purview for the sake of this video. The major broadcast networks continue to do their jobs at attracting generalist audiences respectably throughout 2020, even though some of them have had to get creative with content during parts of the pandemic. CBS stayed America's most watched network in 2020, though from a considerably lower perch, only reaching an average of just over 5.6 million viewers, down over 20%. NBC stayed in second with a similar decline to just over 5 million viewers. ABC stays third, but at 4.5 million and narrows the gap compared to the million-wide gulf there was last year. Fox at 4.16 million had a softer fall of only 10% year-on-year, while the CW lost a quarter of its audience on average from last year, staying at 811,000. And My Network TV is not a network. I've been over this. The video that explains that is down in the description. Moving over to cable, there have been slumps across the board as a 7-figure average gets further and further away for most channels. This year, the biggest entertainment channel on cable is, surprisingly, TLC, which at 1.365 million viewers just pips last year's leader, corporate sibling HGTV, for 10th place. TLC has actually grown 16% year-on-year. Their secret? Turning their show 90 Day Fiancé into a network-spanning franchise at a scale and speed on a similar level to the seemingly innumerable Real Housewives on demographic rival Bravo. Hallmark Channel remains within striking distance, while TBS, History, and Discovery are the only other channels on cable with a million average this year. TNT is just under the million line, the aforementioned Bravo are relatively stagnant at 812,000, Lifetime has dipped slightly to 671,000, Freeform has dipped to 519,000 but is now doing much better than MTV, which has sunk to 440,000, and Paramount Network finds its hill at 461,000. Just 5,000 fewer viewers on average from last year and thus essentially flat. We don't yet know whether their repositioning as a movie network will do anything for them in 2021, but they certainly have examples of both success, in Hallmark Movies and Mysteries at 639,000, up 9% from last year, and failure, in LMN, down 14% to 281,000, to guide them. Kids TV had a turbulent 2020, and the pandemic making new programming a scarcity throughout the usual high-tide summer months certainly didn't help matters. However, among the big three, the stack was no different than usual. Nickelodeon has plummeted to 494,000 viewers, and Disney Channel has dropped to 395,000, both down by about a third compared to last year, and setting a very narrow ceiling indeed for the heights of linear kids TV. Before animation enthusiasts get all giddy, however, Cartoon Network continues to do worst of all, dropping by 29% for the second year in a row to 274,000 viewers. The checkerboarded market leader of a bygone era has changed a little from last year, especially in scheduling, and thus gets the same results. The less said about their new content in 2020, the better. Into the second tier, Disney XD is effectively moribund at 94,000, but now leads the pack as Nicktoons shed nearly half its audience to land at 87,000. T-Nick is the worst of the quartet at 58,000, and it seems Retro just might rate somewhat, as Boomerang has only lost 6,000 viewers compared to last year, putting it at 92,000 on average for 2020. And in the minor leagues, both networks that comprise Kids TV's Shrimp tier are actually up by about 10% each, though that only brings Discovery Family up to 58,000 and Universal Kids up to 34,000. Both channels have their own issues, but small fluctuations translate to big shifts on this small scale. Amongst the kids-adjacent networks, Nick at Night dropped by 20% and over 100,000 viewers from last year to only 442,000. I guess Friends reruns everywhere you look aren't really being there for them. I doubt Young Sheldon, their newest fixation, will make any continued reason for the block to exist any more apparent. Its effective clone at this point, TV Land, only slipped slightly to 568,000 viewers, which is even just higher than Nick at Night rated last year. Again, I raised the question as to why Viacom CBS continues to feel so compelled to keep Nick at Night around, and the case for its death is even stronger this year than last. Like Nickelodeon's evening attire, Cartoon Network's timeshare, Adult Swim, also dipped by a fifth to 517,000. Everyone seems to think television ratings are a race to the bottom, so which channel is it that's down there to keep up with? What was the lowest rated TV network in 2020? There are a few new entrants this year, so dead last is 149th place in 2020, and the channel that has the dishonor of landing there is MTV Classic, which comes up as a 0 in the Nielsen system. However, that's somewhat on a technicality, as Nielsen stopped reporting ratings for that channel in June 2020. Even if it was still being reported, however, it's likely it wouldn't be rating any better than the 9,000 it had in 2019. Besides MTV Classic, the next lowest rated outlet from a major conglomerate of any real note is Universal Kids, as previously mentioned. But hey, last year's worst rated channel, Comedy.tv, one of the Tiny Entertainment Studios channels, actually tripled in viewership this year, going from 1,000 to 3,000 viewers. So I guess anything is possible. If you want to see more insights like this, make sure you hit subscribe so you can be the first to see new journeys through the world of television every single week. You can check out last year's averages roundup or my recent discussion of the future of Paramount Network up here or down the description. I'm Benzie Johnson Jr., I'm enthusiastic about television, and I'll see you next time.